Now we're live streaming from the peacocks. Now, why do male peacocks have a large tail? The answer is really simple. They attract women. Lots of peahens like a big peacock's tail. We know this because we've taken a peacock and we've cut off half of its eyes. So we took those and we cut off about half of them. And then we took them and we glued them onto the tail of another peacock. The one with the artificially enhanced peacock's tail got a lot of action that breeding season. Scientists carefully recording how many times peacocks have sex. Science can be a weird job sometimes. And there was like tons of action. Other peacocks who didn't have artificially enhanced tails got a little bit of action. The one who had them cut off, no action at all. Didn't breed once. Not even his fault. He had them, they just cut it off. So it turns out, having a peacock's tail, you do have more children. However, why are the peahens picking males with large tails? Because they live in forests that have tigers. And that tail will absolutely get you eaten by a tiger. Because you cannot run as fast or fly as far if you have this huge, weighty, large peacock tail. Yes, it helps attract the women, but also, if you get eaten by a tiger, your breeding season is also going to go pretty bad. So that sounds like a really bad thing for the peahens to pick. And this is why everybody was to Darwin, like, clearly, this is stupid because you can't explain this. And he did explain it eventually, but at the time he wrote, like this, he couldn't even stand the sight of a peacock at the time he wrote because of that particular problem. Why are the peahens picking that as the best possible mate? And one of the reasons it was controversial is because also the idea that like a mere female is affecting something as grand as evolution was like, can't have that. Nonsense. Why is that a good trait? Yes? Your hand went like this, and then you thought better of it. Pardon? Intimidation. Nope, the tigers will view it as lunch. It's like having a bigger fast food sign.
Like that adage that if you want to run away from a bear, make sure you can run faster than your friend. Pick a meat that's more likely to get eaten.
I really like that idea. The peahens going, at least if somebody eats us, it'll eat him first. Yeah, I like that. That's not the reason. Trying to get. Why would you pick something that useless? We've shown a similar effect in humans. If you yes.
They just think it looks nice.
Yeah, but why do they think it looks nice? Like, because everything has an underlying reason. Like dung beetles love the smell of poop. Like, poop is the best thing in the world. We don't like the smell of poop. We say poop smells bad, but it doesn't smell bad. It doesn't smell good. It's just a chemical that hits our nose, and then a signal goes to our brain that our evolution has automatically associated. You don't learn that poop smells bad. You just know it smells bad. That is built in, because what do you not want humans doing with their poop? You don't want them eating it. Now, sometimes you do have to train it in children. They like to paint on walls and stuff, especially if they're carrying it around in a big pocket. However, you don't. So for humans, it would be really bad. If you have an evolutionary human who's got a mutation that thinks it smells great and eats it for dinner, they're probably not going to survive very long. There's going to be all sorts of bad effects and diseases that you're going to get from doing that. So there must be a reason why they think it looks good. Breeding season doesn't happen right away. So first they have to be born, they have to get older and become adolescents, and then they have to survive to breeding season.
It shows that they're fit enough to have the unfortunate side effects of tails.
That's essentially it. Of all the males who show up for breeding season, the one with the largest tail is by definition the most fit. Because if you weren't fit enough to run away from the tiger with the tail, then you don't even show up. So of the ones that show up, the one that had the bigger weight has the best circulatory system, the best immune system, the best reflexes, the best brain to evade tigers. Whatever it is, they're the best. They have the best genes. They advertise it with their tail. This is called sexual selection. Darwin eventually did write about it and included it in a later edition of his famous book. And this drives evolution in so many different areas. It's the most rapid expansion you can get. As soon as females figure out which traits and males figure out which traits are good ones to pick for offspring, those traits tend to explode because they're being actively selected for, not just passively by the environment. You can see that with hear that with a bullfrog's roar. That was picked for sexual selection. The larger the roar, the more healthy that particular individual. You can see that with hummingbirds. They do their mating dance by showing how long they can hover in one spot without moving, which takes a lot of skill and a lot of strength. And so the longer you can do that as a male hummingbird, and then the female hummingbird will go, you've got good genes. And so now they have a lot of abilities. Our brains bear all the hallmarks of sexual selection in terms of how quickly they expanded in evolutionary history. It turns out there's probably only 3 or 4 genes that are involved in that. And once it was selected for, it exploded. And the theory right now is that that explains art. Right now you can, well, maybe we'll see where AI goes. You can make a living with art. You can make things and put them in computer games. You can make classical paintings that people buy. You can make statues. But if you're to put it in a somewhat apocryphal story that maybe not existed, but if you're a cave person, you're not making a lot of money selling your digital art to computer games. You're probably not making any money making art at all. You're just making art for fun. And so when all your friends go, come on outside, we got to hunt the gazelle, and you're like, you can't, I'm trying to get the abstractness of this painting and the shading quite right on the cave. They're like, that guy's useless. But then later on, that guy goes, hello ladies, would you like to come upstairs to my cave and see my etchings? And they go, yeah, because art is a really good indicator of how healthy your brain is. And the art you can do really shows how capable your brain is. It is a brain advertisement. For a long time, we have noticed as humanity and scientists who literally go in to study these things, being able to display your art shows how smart you are. And for humans, being smart is our main competitive advantage. So having the ability to do art might actually be how humans got their big brains so fast.
Do female,
peahens?
Yeah, do they also have something that attracts?
Nope.
Also
Nope.
gene, right?
In terms of mating strategies, the male how we designate genetic male and female is based on which one has the motile, the moving gametes, and which one has the gametes that have to sit there and be cared for. So that would in mammals that would be pregnancy, or in birds it would be laying on eggs, and the female has to lay on the eggs. So the male strategy is often to mate with as many females as possible, whereas the female strategy is to have the best eggs quality as possible. So there's a lot of choosing going on. Now there's some differences. There's lots of birds that actually mate for life. Don't necessarily have that variable mating pattern. And there's a whole section of bird biology about what happens when they cheat on each other. It's like reading a soap opera on some of the behaviors that go on.
Do humans have the same instinct?
In terms of, there's a lot of, what's it called? Neo-evolutionism, where we say things like, oh, we do this because we used to do that, and then this is a strategy. And the answer is, humans define most things by culture. We make up rules, and we define a culture that works with those rules. I mean, humans invented an airplane, and we stuff them ourselves inside of one and sit on it for hours until we get to the other side, and nobody has killed anybody, usually, by the time you get there. There is no species of primate on the planet that we could do that to, where that would happen. Even the bonobos, which are considered quite gentle and loving, which are a relative of the chimpanzee, would absolutely kill each other on the way there. They just can't organize in packs in the same kind of way that we can, because they can't invent social rules. So to say that humans must do certain things, especially the genetic or evolutionary determinism, whereas females are for this and males for that, does not apply to humans in much the same way. Just because our competitive advantage is that we can do anything. So we invented airplanes and stuffed ourselves with islands in order to get to different places and organize in larger group. Our main strategy seems to be hierarchical organization. So people who can do that better usually outcompete other humans. But in particular strategies, there's actually a species of bird in which they've reversed it. They live in a swamp where there are so many alligators that the chief way that they get their threat to existence is that the females cannot lay enough eggs in a breeding season to keep up the population. So they evolved to reverse what we would expect normally. The females keep harems of males. They will create a nest. Well, the males will create the nest because that's their job. And then once the male has created the nest, the female will come, have sex with the male, lay eggs in the nest, and then the male will sit on the eggs. And then the female will go, build another nest, find another male, sex, lay eggs, and we'll have like a harem of 12 males, all laying on her eggs. That way, if like half of them get eaten by alligators, no big deal. She's got the other half. Great strategy. And she can produce more eggs and more offspring than the whole species other would, because you're limited by the amount of eggs a female can lay on otherwise. In this particular one, the females fight over males in much the same way as you see other species, the males fighting over females. And when a female takes over another female's territory, they will kill the other female and then go to all the other males' eggs and smash them apart so they have no more children to take care of, and then lay her own eggs on the yolky remains of the previous brood. Very horrific in a way, yes. I talked so long. That's what happens. I will do this, and then I will give you the 5-minute break. Very, very quickly, just so that this is a chromosomal removal. Give you an example of a deleterious effect. Large eyes. There's actually stunted growth in the head. Is Wolff-Hirschhorn syndrome. I may be mispronouncing that. It's because a part of their chromosome is entirely deleted, so they're missing a ton of genes. They still have them on the other chromosome, and so it's not that they can't grow, but it has some fairly significant side effects. Their heart doesn't develop properly. They have heart problems for the rest of their life, and they have severe cognitive disabilities. A single point mutation in a particular protein, ApoA melano, introduces a variant that is recessive. And if you have that variant, you are so much less likely to get heart disease. Like, you can eat fast food for the rest of your life and you're going to be good. It's a mutation. This mutation probably made you slightly less able to take out 100% efficiency from stored energy in a time of starvation. So it might have been a little bad, but in a modern society with things like fast food, it turns out helps you live a lot longer. Now, this is good on the individual level. It remains to be seen if it's good on an evolutionary level. Will this actually expand? Will we see this slowly take over and humans will gradually adapt to fast food and cholesterol, high cholesterol food and everything else? Or will it turn out to be bad for humans? Why might this be bad for humans if, your parents, instead of dying at 60, died at 90? Yeah, they live longer, so there's more of them, so we're using up more resources. Yeah.
Because if there's a lot of old people, they can't work and it drags the economy.
If there's a lot of old people, what are they? They're still in jobs, so yeah, you can't have that job maybe. Yeah. Also, when you call home, why do you call home? Because you like them? No. What do you want? You want money. You want them to fill up your bank account, pay off your visa. Give me another Subway card. I want to go to Thrifty's. You want scratch. If they die, you get their inheritance. If they die at 90, you might get their inheritance too late for that to affect how many children you have. You might have had more if you had more means. Maybe this will end up being a bad thing. On the other hand, if your grandparents survive longer and they babysit the kids and having kids is easier, that might be a good thing. It would really depend on what the effect this has of people living longer. There's absolutely couples I know, if it wasn't for the grandparents babysitting, they wouldn't be able to go to work because they wouldn't be able to afford daycare. On the other hand, if people aren't, if the older generation is moving out of the way for the younger generation, then at the same time, that presents a level of competition that can actually decrease the chance of your offspring surviving. It remains to be seen whether this is good or not, but like humans can now edit their DNA, so we can tell evolution to suck it and do what we want. And like, just take a good look. What population do we want? We now have birth control, and populations tend to go down over time once we invent that, because it turns out people don't want to send 7 kids to Brentwood. It's really expensive. So they just have 1 or 2, less than replacement value on average. Okay, 5-minute break. 8:56, 9:01 back here. Get up, stretch your legs.
Genetics feels really weird.
What does?
Genetics. It's all strange.
If you want to know what you're going to look like when you get older, just take a good look at both your parents and squint your eyes and kind of morph them together.
I have become my sister. We look almost like as identical as I think we could now, but we used to look nothing alike. It's really strange.
Just morphed into each other. Liam, you have a question?
Would you like to see some really cool scuba videos that we took on a dive on Saturday?
Oh, cool. What is that?
That's a sea lion.
Very cool. That's not dangerous?
No.
Feels dangerous.
It's pretty
The
cool.
whole word lion in there feels dangerous.
There's like another one where it came even closer earlier in the dive. Hold on. It was like time lapse. So it's
Now,
like,
everybody who's just sitting down with their phones, could you at least stand up and shake your legs? You need to get blood flow. Stand up, shake your
it's
legs.
time lapse, but this one, it's only like a 5-second one. There's like a really close sea
Very
lion.
cool. Yeah, that was very close.
It was really close.
Stand up, shake your legs.
It was way cooler in person.
Stretch.
It was way cooler when you're like looking at it and it stares into your eyes.
Oh, excellent. Put your arms up. Yeah.
Okay, I shook my legs.
Mr. Newfield,
Yeah?
wait, so do you only males have like these traits or like these like traits that like attract the
Yeah, like in most species,
females don't have
the males are the sexy ones.
Oh, okay.
And then the females choose who's the most sexy. So like peacocks have giant tails, hummingbirds hover for the longest, bullfrogs roar the loudest. It's always females choosing males.
Robins have red chests.
Robins have red chests.
Isn't it the opposite?
Oh yeah, the bird species have so many.
Isn't
Pardon?
it the opposite with humans?
Why would it be the opposite?
It's more of a cultural thing in humans to be the opposite. Like, with the whole societal beauty expectations and junk.
The question is, if it was the opposite or the same in humans, how would you know? Because if you were a robin, you would just say, well, of course males have red chests.
That's
All
the way
males
it
do.
is.
That's just the way it is.
It's different across cultures. Everything.
So what would be the traits? We don't have any. One of the reasons we know there isn't any, there hasn't been a huge amount of competition, is you can tell the amount of competition by the differences between the males and females. So, for example, in is it sea lions? Which wouldn't the one that has like absolutely gigantic males and these little tiny females? I think it might be sea lions. You see a lot of differences in size, whereas the differences in size in females and males in like us isn't actually all that great. Females are a little smaller, which means there was some competition in our evolutionary past, but not a lot. You can also see it in the quality of our gametes. The classic vet quote at looking at a slide of a male gamete is that if that was a bull, I'd shoot it because they look so pathetic and they don't swim very well. In species in which there's a lot of competition, often females are also competing for more than one male. In those, you have to have really high quality gametes, ones that swim really well and can attack other gametes. And humans don't seem to have that. So our strategy apparently has been probably mostly paired coupled bonds, whether that exists for lifetime or not, but that seems to be the main strategy.
If we think humans do have like a lot of ornamentation, like think about our lips, like our mouths are outturned to show like redness, and we have like really like we can have long hair and like, but like it's so diverse across our body, but our hair is like.
And the fact we smile is wild, because in any other species, you're baring your teeth. That is danger. There's the number of tourists that walk up to an animal. Oh, look, it's smiling at me. That animal is not smiling at you. It's about to bite you. Whereas humans, we actually breed other animals to smile because we like it so much. So dogs will now like attempt to smile, and they're not baring their teeth. It's weird.
My Australian Shepherd has like this little kind of like smile with the mouth closed, and it's really cute. It's just like it just looks so like. Another photo of me.
Oh, it's really cool.
It was a really cool dive. That was probably around 60 feet deep,
Yeah.
20 meters.
Don't explode.
My brother-in-law was a diver. He used to take tours down off Vancouver Island, and he tells the story of one time when he was down, and he's just filming, and then all of a sudden the camera goes really still. You don't see anything, but what happened is that a sea lion came up behind him and put his mouth over his head and just went like that in the skull, and just stopped there. I just sort of, I don't know, tasted him for a bit, and then let go and swam off.
He was like, I
That's
could
the scary-
kill you
most
if I
scary thing ever
wanted.
did.
I mean, we were all in like a group though, so it didn't attack us. It was probably just one.
He was in a group too. All of a sudden they were swarmed by like a bunch. And that one did it to him. You don't see it in there, but a little later on, all of a sudden you see a bunch come in front.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
I need an underwater camera. I don't know.
Oh, 902. Please put away your phones.
Genetics always, talking about human like samples and genetics always feels slightly too eugenicsy.
Yeah. I also, keep in mind, I am going to give you a strong sense of fate when we talk about genetics. If you have this, this will happen. And absolutely, that has also been used against you. Any ad you see for fitness where they show someone who looks like they don't ever exercise, and then they do this fitness program and they look fantastic afterwards. Number one, you have to have the right genes. So if your parents don't look like that, you're unlikely to look like that. It's not that easy to have particular types of body. You have to have the right genetics. Also, they pick elite athletes to do those particular ads. So they look up an athlete who's gotten a really bad sports injury, and they'll pay them not to exercise. Just don't exercise, and when you're done, like eat all the fast food you want. We're going to take pictures of you for our before. And then okay, and then when they're better, they just go back into their regular exercise routine for whatever sport or Olympic thing that they're competing in. All the weight sheds, and they do whatever stupid thing that the company wants them to do. You know, eat this powder, put this electrical thing on your muscles twice a day, whatever. And then they just go back to what they looked like before. They take the after picture, and they go, yeah, if you use the shake weight, that's what it will do for your body. And it's just genes and a good exercise routine. It is a little bit like fate. The equivalent would be when I was at a teacher pro D that also had university people there, and I was talking to someone who's a recruiter for a university. Have I told this story about rowers? And people really wanted to go to his university. I don't remember which one it was. And they were like, hey, I really want to get a scholarship. I'm number one in my class at this high school. You know their program. I'd really like it. And he'd be taking cards. One girl came up, I'm number one in the state. This is what I've done for my training. This is my trainer. I'd really love to be on your program. He's like, great, give me your card. She gives him his card. While he's talking to me, he casually rips it in half and throws it in the garbage. And I'm like, that seemed sudden. Like, why'd you just rip it up right away? And he said, well, her thigh ratio, like knee here to knee and knee to foot, was wrong. I'm like, what do you mean wrong? Well, she's the best in her state, but her state's not a very big state. So she is the best in her state, but she'll never be Olympic level because she doesn't have the leverage required for rowing at the right level. You have to be born with that. Now, if you're born with that, you can go to the Olympics, but you need to be born with it and do the right training. She has the right training, but she's not born with the right ratio. So too bad for her. I was like, that's cold. Like, has nobody told? Like, why didn't you tell her that? He goes, that never goes well. You can't tell someone that they cannot do a sport that they dedicated their lives to in advance. You just have to let them find out when they get to that level. So when she gets to the Olympic level, all the athletes with the right ratio will all just outcompete her. I was like, that's really sad. On the other hand, if you don't train well, you will never reach anywhere in that particular section. Yeah.
I argue against that in the fact that my dad was considered, had like a bad body type for rowing based off his calf to leg ratio, but he still won an Olympic silver medal because you can change your.
And we have, what's his name? He used to have an exercise area in Victoria. He played on basketball.
What?
Nash.
Yes. He's the Formula.
His dad won Olympic. Oh, you don't know. When I was first hired, like every third year, it seemed like we were signing banners for his dad because he was going to the Olympics. It was so annoying.
Really?
Yeah, I gotta sign it. Who is this guy? I've got to sign a banner for a student I don't even know. And we'd sign it, we'd send it off, and then go like do things in the Olympics. It turns out, and then his dad came here and worked, and now he's our road coach. Sure, that's true. There can be individual variation, but if you're a coach and you're looking for the best of the best, and you can be choosy, I'm just saying, that was his method of being choosy. So maybe the lesson is don't give up on your dreams. There'll be people who are making choices on it. I think the best lesson to take from it is don't over worry about things. Do stuff you enjoy and you're good at, and you will be fine. If you want to be an opera singer, maybe you won't be the best opera singer, but maybe you'll have fun at least doing being an opera singer. Neutral mutations. They have no effect on an organism. So a neutral mutation, we already saw an example where we had a mutation, it went from one amino acid to another amino acid. Often it can occur, and I've mentioned this already several times, junk DNA, which is a little squished here. And that's DNA never transcribed. So it's never turned into an amino acid strand, and so if you have a mutation in there, it's not going to affect you. That being said, we are learning more and more that some areas of what we used to call junk DNA actually has a function. It may not be transcribed into it, but it actually has a regulatory function on other ones that are transcribed. So changing it may change how another gene is done. But however, there does seem to be still a lot of area that just seems to be junk. You could get rid of it entirely and it wouldn't affect the organism. So changing one part of a codon may not harm the organism. Our example for that was all the way back here. I'm going to annoy you and flip back for a second. Because the one where it was isoleucine and isoleucine, that's known as a silent mutation. We actually use silent mutations because they do happen at a constant rate. And we use those to track evolutionary time. You have some genes in common with a clam because to process oxygen and undergo metabolism, there's some genes that almost every organism has and have been passed down. The amount of silent mutations in between the two of them, they have to be tightly conserved because any particular mutation that changes it would affect your ability to metabolize. So they're almost always harmful, but the amount of silent mutations that don't make a difference, the difference in those you can then calculate when it was the last time you had a common ancestor. It turns out we've managed to recreate the entire fossil record and all of our branchings just from reading the DNA. So even if the fossil record didn't exist, we would still know the ancestry and the timings of the last common ancestor of every species. We can now get it just from the biochemistry. So it was a wonderful confirmation. I should mention, I am talking about evolution a lot. That is actually, I'm relating it because that's going to be the next part after this. After, obviously we've done genes, how genes are transcribed, then we do mutations, and then we do evolution, so it's all connected. But if you are also, I should mention, the type of person who doesn't believe for any particular reason in evolution, that is perfectly fine. If you have any questions about that, you can always see me privately, like, how does this work or how does that work? Because you wanted to ask the question, you couldn't, you've been told not to believe it, that's fine. You do have to know it in terms of, like, you must intellectually be able to pass the test type of thing and understand what at least the theory is. But when I was your age, I thought the Earth was 2,000 years old. Evolution didn't happen, and the Great Flood happened more or less as exactly described in the Bible. And I didn't think I was an idiot then. More so to think I'm an idiot now. As I learn more, the less intelligent I think I am. However, I was once in those particular shoes. So if you, for any topic we ever cover, if you're like, no, I think this is wrong, it is perfectly fine for you to think it's wrong. I'm not going to think any less of you. I have thought many weird things, not calling it weird, but many things in my life, and have also read tarot cards in university for other people who eventually were convinced I had psychic powers. I'm really bad at it, and it should not have worked, but it worked a little too well. I also once discovered where water was by being a water witch. And someone actually hired me to dig wells, and I tell them, dig there. Wasn't very good at that either, but it turns out if you dig far enough, you almost always find water. It is very weird, though. Having the rods move in your hands because you're discovering water is a weird sensation. If you don't know what a water witch is, it's an old-timey thing in which you hire someone and they get like two yew trees are apparently supposed to work. Spring steel rods also work. You can use copper rods. You hold them in your hands, and when you walk over, you just walk. When you walk over a spot, it will go down, and that's where water is. And you just walk over a field or an area until that happens, and you dig a well there.
Does it actually work?
No. But does it feel like it works? Who asked the question? Yeah, absolutely. It feels like it works. The water witches who are really good, I think, just have an instinct that the way you look at a piece of land can often tell you where water accumulates, even underground. And so if you tend to feel that, you could make it happen in that spot and then dig there. But I was walking along, and like it's not going down, and all of a sudden we'd go whoop, back away, it'd go whoop, and it would feel like it's working. But it's much the same mechanism, it turns out, if you do research on it, that causes people to think that Ouija boards work. Idiopathic motor loss. Over time, the strain of your muscles holding onto something, you will actually be doing something that you're not aware to be doing. And so you're actually causing it to go up and down because your muscles are tired. You are not aware of how you're moving it. Anybody here use a Ouija board? They're illegal to use in the school, by the way, in every house except for Privet House. We have special privileges that you do not have.
We're not allowed to.
No, you're not. That is an old ruling from the days of Ms. Pennells, when Mrs. Pennells was the head. Ms. Pennells was the head before Mr. Patel. The reason being that some girls in Alex's house got a Ouija board and scared the crap out of the entire house. And so they wanted to ban it. And I said, why? And they said, because they shouldn't be using magic. And I'm like, it's a game by Parker Brothers. And so they said, fine, Privet House can use it, but only with the lights on and if you're around.
Wait, so Privet House is actually allowed to use it, but no one else?
Yeah.
Do they enforce that?
Yeah. Pardon?
What they actually?
I may be the only person that remembers this rule.
Yeah, I don't think like.
But gosh darn it, I'm going to keep it up. Yeah. We used to have a Ouija board in Privet House specifically for that purpose. It was the one that belonged to Alex's house.
The old lore of the school.
Yeah. We should do that for our open house.
Well, if you like, Alex is pretty creepy.
We could, I could read tarot cards. We could have Ouija boards set up.
Like witchcraft themed open house.
Yeah. So, I I have done things that skirt on the edges of science. I don't believe them now, but I think I know how they worked and why they seem to work. It's very easy to fool yourself. But if you also believe them, I could be wrong, and I've been wrong lots, is my main point. So number one, don't believe anything I say. You do have to know the science stuff in order to pass tests. If you have questions, so you're like, I was taught this about evolution, and I don't know if it's right or not, how would you explain it, or what did you learn? I'm happy to answer those questions, because I was once in the same boat. Okay, why would I show noses about a mutation that does not change function or give you an advantage or disadvantage? Can anybody see the nose that has the most advantage? The biggest one has the most advantage. The entire cosmetic industry of nose jobs would seem to give that a lie, because most people are trying to make their noses smaller. There's very few calls for making your nose bigger.
Actually be the one that's most helpful then, when people who want to change their nose would make them the most money?
Oh, that's a good point too. I don't know if that would make a huge difference. No, the point is that the way your nose works, those are all the same nose. They all work evolutionary the same way. They can all smell the same stuff. There's no real difference to it. Sure, there's some people that may like a pointed nose more than other ones that are more likely to marry you, because I'm going to use marry because that's what I'm going to assume. I will procreate with you because you have a nice pointy nose and I find that attractive. Or you have like a gigantic honker. Oh, I like a gigantic. In the end, there are people who like that. There are people who don't like that. But they're, roughly speaking, there you will find someone who likes all type of noses somewhere. So it actually doesn't give you any particular advantage or disadvantage. Sometimes this will be called genetic drift. You will get accumulation of changes that are essentially random. They make no difference to the survival of the species, but they change the appearance of the species. Just because it didn't make a difference and one just became popular as in it spread more just by chance. And populations in different areas that start out the same may end up looking different while still being pretty much the same. And so these are an example of, even if you did something like this, is an actual change. You change the shape and growth and everything of the nose, but in terms of how your nose smells, you don't smell here with the edges of your nose. Smelling is all occurring like inside. And so it's not going to make a difference. In fact, most of your sense of taste comes from your nose. It doesn't come from your mouth. When you eat food, the air sort of mixes with the food, comes in back through your nose as well as the front, and that's where your sense of taste is. And then your tongue adds a little bit of salt, sweet, and so on. And in the classic version of that, if you don't believe me, just plug your nose, put on a blindfold, and try to tell the difference between an onion and an apple. And it is far more difficult than you would believe. Positive mutations. Increases an organism's ability to reproduce. Improves the function of a gene by causing it to create an improved protein. Because everything is about the amino acid change, so that had to improve in some way. And this sounds like that, well, that would be good. Everything's improving. No, there are some things we don't want to improve. Bacteria. What do bacteria get that we don't want? Yeah, how do they get stronger? What do they get resistant to? Antibiotic resistant bacteria. Antibiotic resistant bacteria, superbugs. When penicillin was first invented, essentially a researcher noticed, hey, this bread mold that's growing on my bacteria samples I'm studying has a ring around it where the bacteria died. Wonder what it is that mold is making that caused the bacteria to die. And then he discovered penicillin. The penicillin kills off bacteria. No bacteria are resistant to penicillin at the time. It's a magic bullet. And previous to antibiotics, if you got an infection, it either got better or you died. There was no treatment, really, that you could do other than to just hope that, keep them fed, keep them warm or cold or whatever it was called for, and just hope the immune system worked. But antibiotics was a magic bullet. It killed the bacteria right away. But we not only we overused it, we used it for things like colds. Parents would walk in and go, "My child has a cold, give him antibiotics, it's a miracle drug." And the doctor would go like, it's a viral infection. Antibiotics kill bacteria, not viruses. So you're just giving it to them for no reason, and you're training them to be resistant to it. And you must take your antibiotics on schedule. How often a day do you take your antibiotics when you're prescribed?
Twice every day.
Sure, twice. Often 3 times, 4 times. What you're trying to avoid more is like this whole thing, but if it's twice, you take your antibiotics, you have the highest amount, so you take it, amount goes up, goes down, you take it again, goes up, as you digest it, goes down, goes up, and it's going like this. And probably, this is the area of 100% kill. All the bacteria die while they're being exposed to that. Not all at once, but that's where it's killing them. Here, kill the weak. So there are bacteria that can survive in this area. They're being killed, but it's like wolves in a deer population. They're killing the lame and the sick. So they're actually improving the function of those bacteria by killing off the ones with bad genes. Below here, 6 about it, where I'll say unfit bacteria. So if you're a strong enough bacteria, in here it doesn't kill really any of them. I mean, it does, but it kills the ones that are just really bad at being and like have no resistance whatsoever. And then like down here, they actually grow. You forget to take your antibiotics. So like, oh yeah, I took it my first day, and then I forgot. And then, oh crap, I forgot. So I took it again, and then I forgot. And then I took it again, and then I forgot. And you are now, before, very little time was spent in this whole, like, just kill off the weak. Now most of the time is being spent in kill off the weak. So all you're doing is that you're taking the bacteria population and you're constantly removing the individual that is the least resistant to the antibiotics. And you're leaving the most resistant behind, who then breed and grow, make babies, and then you redo that. And over time, just like we would get dogs from wolves, you now have antibiotics where they're all just resistant at the maximum levels, and this shifts up, and now you can't take penicillin anymore. It doesn't work. If you do that to your own bacteria, like the bacteria in your intestines that's actually working for you, they can also become antibiotic resistant, and then they can give it to other bacteria. Bacteria have a method of exchanging genes. And so if you take antibiotics improperly, you can actually train bacteria to be resistant. You evolve them, essentially. And we are super concerned about that. If we would just stop using penicillin worldwide, we could probably actually recover its abilities in about 10 to 12 years. We would just use other antibiotics. It would require worldwide cooperation and goodwill. And given where we are with vaccines, not sure that's going to happen soon. Bacteria survive and are no longer affected by the antibiotics. There's also this idea that can come about from a misstudy of evolution and go, well, evolution kills the sick and the weak. We should also kill the sick and the weak. That's not a form of evolution. Evolutionary, you are more stable as a species, the more genetic variation that you have. If you can help your weak and sick survive, you have just more variation amongst you, which means it's a potential solution to a problem. If you have a DNA deletion in the CCR5 gene. So this is HIV. Oh, writing in green on green is probably a bad idea. Here's the CCR5 gene. The HIV virus comes in, attaches to this, and then gets let into your T cell. T cell is an immune cell. The reason HIV is so good at invading humans is not because it's a very strong bacteria. It dies in air in seconds. It literally is spread. You have to like give warm, moist fluids to people in some kind of way, whether that's a blood transfusion or sexual activity, to actually get HIV. It's an extremely weak virus, but it's extremely good because it inhabits your own immune system. So if you attack it, you're attacking your own immune system. And so it hides in a great place. If you have a mutation in this gene, this process that lets it in doesn't work anymore. Some people just happen to have this. And if you're a homozygote, let's use the letter R, which means you are RR, you are completely immune to the HIV virus. If you're a heterozygote, RR, you will delay the onset of AIDS and you won't have symptoms for much, much longer. If you have this particular variant, it turns out your immune system is actually slightly broken in other ways. You probably get the flu slightly more often than other people. But on the other hand, you're also immune to HIV. And HIV didn't exist until the last little while. So having more variation, even if it's harmful in some ways, can actually provide a solution in the future. So helping our sick and other members of our society, perhaps those that don't move around too well or other genetic things, actually just preserves more genetic variability in the species. You are stronger the more that you have. If a disease came around and the only humans that were resistant were those with blood type G, you would be totally toast, because blood type G probably died out about 125,000 years ago when we went through a near extinction event.
What's that?
Blood type G?
Did that exist?
No,
You just.
made it up. Yeah, because we lost a lot of our blood types.
Oh, yeah.
We're only A, B, and O. Now there are a few very rare ones, as I've said before, in other areas. But, oh, right, before I start this section, I should mention, I meant to do this after the, break, and I forgot. You have a quiz. When?
The 27th. When's the cross? I thought the cross day was on 27th.
No, I didn't say crossgrade. I said quiz. When's the quiz? Next class. What's it on? Punnett squares, yeah. You have a worksheet that you can bring to the quiz. It's the one that has Gregor Mendel in the front. Looks like this. I posted the answers last night.
Is it just on the squares?
It's on Punnett squares.
And
So all of Punnett squares. Dihybrid, codominant, incomplete dominance, regular Punnett squares. All of them. Okay? And I'm going to make this quiz a little different in that you will only have to do one question. But it will have at least 3 questions. It will have a question that is extending. It will have a question that is proficient. And it has a question that is developing. It may have more for some variations. And you can just choose which one you want to do.
That would probably take more to one.
The extending, for example, may be something like a dihybrid. Why are we backing up?
To me, and I was like, what the hell?
Not talking, listening, details of clues. It may have something as complicated as a dihybrid cross with co and incomplete dominance, which we actually haven't really done a lot. Or it may have something like has regular dominance and recessive, but it's a trihybrid cross. And you will use your worksheet to then make a reasonable assumption of what you have to do to solve that. That'd be extended. Proficient, any kind of question that we've done, a regular, good, solid Punnett square question, you figure out the stuff. show what you can do. Could have blood typing, anything on it. Developing, probably a simple, straightforward, dominant, recessive, true reading type of Punnett square question. And then you can just choose which one you're going to do for that.
Wait, what's the tri-hybrid cross?
Exactly. Well, you've seen a monohybrid cross,
Yeah.
and you've seen a dihybrid cross. So you could just expand that to a trihybrid cross. A monohybrid cross had 4 squares. Dihybrid had 16. What would a trihybrid have? Well, you had 2 times 2, that's 4. 2 times 2 times 2. Oh, no, 2 to the 2 to the 2. So 2 to the 2 is 4. 4 to the 2 is 16. 16 to the 2 is... It's a lot. This turns out to be 64 squares, I think. It'd be a fair number. It's definitely doable. It's not anything particularly, but you just have to be careful about how you separate out the genes and do the same kind of thing. But if you can pass that trait from the dihybrid to the trihybrid, you definitely have an extending level of knowledge. That's the quiz this week. Next week is your cross grade. I just put all the scary terms I could put on there: cross grade, exam, examination, I think. Cross grade, I teach 3 classes, so every test I give is a cross grade.
This is just a test.
It is on all of biology. Okay, so no chemistry, obviously, but all of the biology we've done so far. We'll see how much of this it includes, but it definitely includes all the stuff prior to this. As lastly, I am almost completely done marking your lab notebooks, and I believe I have everybody's. But if you know that, oh my God, I've had this in my pocket the whole time, it turns out someone was like, oh, lab books, and he pulled it out of his bag yesterday. I gave it to me. I'm finishing those up today, and I do need them for your final lab. So if you have that, you should give that to me. So test not this week, but next week, on Thursday or Friday, whatever day we have class, and then quiz next class on genetics. You've had a lot of time with that worksheet. It is, I held it up in the room. That one, yeah. And the answers and the blank worksheet were posted yesterday, just to make sure that you have it if you somehow lost it, and you need to go over it. Now, why is everybody, I still have 2 more minutes. I just wanted to make sure I got all that in. So I will have to keep everybody an extra minute after class for the notes that you're missing, unless you can get your notes out extremely quickly.
My notes are out right now.
That's fantastic. Because, of course, I just want to make sure I got all that in. We have to do negative mutations, which is the most, this is the vast majority. What do negative mutations do to the organism?
What does that say?
Reduce.
Reproduce.
Ability, reproduce. Sometimes, the reason I ask questions, sometimes people say survival. It's not survival. You survive and never have kids. From an evolutionary point of view, you're the same as someone who died and didn't have kids. If you died but had 47 kids, from an evolutionary standpoint, you're successful. You had lots of kids. You're going to carry on your genes. They used to give out the Darwin Awards as a joke to people who managed to remove themselves from the gene pool in a most spectacular way. I think the first one was a couple of gentlemen who climbed into a tiger's cage to pet it. But you don't have to die to win the Darwin Award. In one particular case, he sat on the hood of a car, and then the car braked, and he went forward. And you know that little emblem on the front hood of a car? He left a couple of really important bits on it when he went forward that removed his ability to reproduce in the future. And won a Darwin Award.
Oh my God. That's
Okay, you may go. Thank you.
Why did you tell us that?
That sounds horrific.
Useful to know if you're ever sitting on the hood of a car.
I don't think I ever will. On a
Yes.
Mercedes.
Oh, your lab, yes, if you have not yet handed it in.
Don't even say that.
Well done.
No, but imagine if we were Rolls Royce.
Yeah,
Oh, that would be bad, bro.
Okay, you don't have to do the blood lab in order to do the blood lab, because I have written it, because there's also people who just don't want to stab themselves. I don't know, they're really bad. You can do the blood lab without actually doing it. Here, these are example blood types. You can just pick one, color it in, and then actually. So based on the knowledge of what blood types you can donate to and receive.
I won't be here on Thursday.
How come? Oh, make sure your name's on it. And then something.
I'm gonna be doing 2 months of energy.
Oh, okay.
But
So
are
you,
you free like tomorrow afternoon?
tomorrow would be,
Not during prep, but in the afternoon.
today in the afternoon.
Doesn't give me much time to study.
But you're gonna be away on Thursday.
Yeah. But like Wednesday in the afternoon, doing like art block.
Yeah, what time?
Any art block, because I have musicals. So I'm
Oh, oh, you're
So
also
that's
in
why
musical and rugby?
Yeah, so
That's
why
nonsense.
I
Yeah.
can't do it during prep.
So why don't we, do you have my number to text?
No, I do.
All the boys in the house have it. Why don't you text me tomorrow? I should be there at like 2 o'clock.
Here?
Yeah. But if I'm a little late for something, I'm not on duty, so I won't necessarily have my office door open. But if you give me a text, tell me that you're coming, then I'll make sure that I am there.
Okay.
Give me extra help and get you up.
Okay. And it won't take long, right? It's just a quiz.
Oh, you want to do the quiz tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh! Oh, you can't do the quiz tomorrow. It's not like that. Yeah. You have to do it. You have to do it once you come back.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. So, but I can just ask other people who've done it for help with this, so it's okay.
Okay, yeah, that part, with that, if you wanted to come over and like go over that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.